Now is the chairman and CEO of L3Harris Technologies, Christopher Kubasik. Great to see you. Thank you so much for being here, Chris.
Great to be here, Maria.
And of course, L3Harris is currently building technologies for the Golden Dome. Congratulations on the government contracts for this. This seems like a really important moment in time right now for L3.
It is absolutely an important time. The president signed an executive order back in January of this year directing the Department of Defense to build a national defense shield for incoming ballistic and hypersonic missiles. What's exciting for L3Harris is we're currently working on programs and technology that is part of the Golden Dome architecture. If you start in space, we have already built and launched satellites for the Missile Defense Agency and the Space Development Agencies to track hypersonic and ballistic missiles. We've already invested and built 2 new facilities in Florida and in Indiana so that we can increase the production of these satellites. And then from the ground, we're on legacy programs such as the Patriot missiles. We make all the solid rocket motors as a result of an acquisition a few years ago called Aerojet Rocketdyne. So we're well positioned there, and we've started building new facilities in Arkansas, Alabama, and Virginia to meet the demand. Very exciting times for L3Harris.
And this is your SAS segment.
It goes across all of our different segments.
Across all of your different segments. But I guess my worry here is that China is also building and building fast to try to beat us in space. And I think that's such an important point what the general just made there. I do think that if we were to see an adversary come at us and another war were to happen, they will want to take down our satellites first. So a war could begin in space. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything seems to be moving to space. A lot of the capabilities that used to be airborne are in fact moving to space, and that's why it's so critical to the future and protection of this country.
But my worry is that we can't make these weapons fast enough. And that's what I meant when I said China is racing there. I was just talking with someone the other day who was talking to me about the Davidson window and this idea that General Davidson came up with the fact that the Davidson window is when China will go into Taiwan. And they think it's going to be this Davidson window of until January 2027. Are we ready for that? Are we ready for that today?
Well, no, the 2027 has been out there for a few years. I think what we need is the entire ecosystem to be on a wartime footing. And I think President Trump and the administration is trying to develop a sense of urgency. It starts with Congress. We can't have a government shutdown. We need to get our budgets timely. We can't have another continuing resolution. We need the Department of Defense to streamline its acquisition process, make decisions quickly, make awards, and then, of course, the industrial base and our supply chain, we have to be able to execute on these programs. So there's good momentum, there's good progress. I think back to World War II and the arsenal of democracy, the entire defense industrial base came together, built 300,000 aircraft, I think it was 86,000 tanks, 71,000 ships in a matter of years. The future of warfare and Arsenal of Democracy 2.0 is going to be the convergence of the hardware, the software, and AI. And I think that's where L3Harris is well positioned and can help the nation.
Well, obviously, the U.S. Space Force recently launched your L3Harris navigation technology satellite into outer space. It marked the Defense Department's first test of an experimental navigation satellite in nearly 50 years. Wow. Tell me more about this. Explain the launch and the opportunity in terms of building these satellites.
Yeah, we call it NTS-3. So this is the next generation of GPS satellites. And GPS is critical to the future of warfare. And it's all about having resilient communications, the ability for these satellites not to be jammed. The nice thing about this particular satellite is it's what we refer to as software defined. So we can upgrade software and AI tools as it's in orbit. We launched it a few weeks ago. It's still being checked out. I think it's a game changer for the nation, and we look forward to future opportunities.
What do you need in terms of scale at this moment in time? Have you seen the amount of opportunities increase just in the last few years?
There is absolutely a sense of urgency. There's clearly a demand signal, and that's why we have invested in the 5 different facilities that I mentioned. We're already operating on these technologies. We've increased our R&D expenditures, so we are ready to go. We just need the signal from the DoD, and I think we can meet these timelines.
How do you characterize the race with China into space?
Oh, there's clearly a race going on. There's a lot of great companies in this defense industrial base that are working collaboratively and trying to meet this demand, from space control to situational awareness. I think the focus on the hypersonic and ballistic missiles coming in from adversaries is the key point. Like I said, we have some in orbit now. We just need to increase the volume while the president's still in office.
I think it was really interesting when China moved one of its own satellites, right? I mean, they were sending a message to the world, we can do this. But there's a real implication to that. I mean, if you shoot down a satellite, what happens then with debris in orbit? What happens in terms of the impact on Earth?
Yeah, the debris fields are a problem for all satellites, including, in this case, the adversary's satellites. So shooting down satellites in orbit is not good for anyone. It affects each and every satellite, and there's nothing you can do about this debris field. So, you know, the president's been clear that his focus is on peace through strength, and I think that is going to be a critical part of our national defense strategy. He's asking NATO and our allies to pay their fair share. And I think, you know, when you look at the efficiency, the elimination of bureaucracy within the DoD to go fast, this administration gets it. I think there is an overall sense of urgency. I'm very optimistic about the future.
I totally agree with you. What do you want to say about the Golden Dome, which I thought was such a great idea that President Trump had in terms of protecting the country and the planet? What's your take on what's needed with the Golden Dome?
Yeah, they are in the process of rolling out the architecture. I think a lot of the existing technologies already exist. You know, it's going to be satellite-based, which I mentioned. I think we're excited and are viewed as probably being the company that can provide those satellites to detect and track hypersonic and ballistic missiles. Of course, the solid rocket motors. There's some large new solid rocket motors and missiles known as Next Generation Interceptor. We're working with Lockheed Martin there, mainly on the ballistic missiles. There's something known as the Glide Phase Interceptor. We're working with Northrop Grumman. These are large solid rocket motors. They're in development. The facilities are being built, and we're excited to get that in production. All
as our entire military, particularly the Army, is evolving. Real quick, what do you want to say to President Trump in terms of where we are in the status of this and where this is going, what L3Harris can be doing right now?
Yeah, I think we're in the sweet spot of where Golden Dome and the future of warfare is going. There's so much focus on some of the lessons learned in Ukraine, I think, is the importance of resilient communications. And I think that is the #1 issue that we as a nation need to focus on. We cannot have our communications intercepted. We can't have them jammed. We can't let our adversaries know where we're sending signals, whether it's voice, data, communications. We have to be able to protect that. Without communications, you can fight, but you can't win the war. Well,
the president did all these executive orders. Do you expect these to be codified into law? These are long-term projects that you're working on. You don't want them to reverse course in 4 years.
No. And the good news is we're seeing it. You start with the executive order. You see it in the budget. You know, we're looking at almost $1 trillion when you look at the Reconciliation Act and some of the 2026 budget. So the money is there. There's a sense of urgency. The defense industrial base, ourselves, the 50 companies that we own a minority interest in that are dual use, venture capital based. We're excited. We're ready to go.
All right. This is your moment, Christopher. Great to have you this morning. Thank you so much.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you.
Chris Kubasik joining us. Don't forget to tune in to my Fox Business special. The Enemy Above is streaming right now on Fox Nation. Check it out.